Metaverse Interoperability.
So what really is a metaverse and how do they make it interoperable? Let's bring on Dr. Kim again, Frank Fitzgerald, CEO and founder of Pax.World, Niko Jonghe, president of Blockchain Valley Virtual, Gregor Žavcer, executive director from Swarm, Joel Dietz from Metaverse, and Ting Peng, who will be moderating, who's a CMO at Cross the Ages.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you this morning?
Good.
Good. Good morning. And thank you, Kim, for the wonderful presentation on Metaverse Interoperability. And I'll kickstart with maybe introducing you guys to our audience here and briefly introducing who you are and what you're doing in the blockchain and metaverse space. Yeah.
So hi, I'm Frank Fitzgerald, founder of Pax.World. Been doing the building a metaverse for 5 years with a great team that we have and dealing with a lot of the same issues and actually just trying to explain to people what interoperability truly means. And by the way, that video you showed, loved it because that's exactly what's happening right now. But we'll talk about that soon.
Hi, I'm Niko de Jong. If you're wondering what happened with my voice, my wife sold it as an NFT. I'm the CEO of Blockchain Valley Virtual. We are building a one-on-one copy of a physical city, Blockchain Valley, that we are building near to Sofia, Bulgaria. And of course, we want also to talk more with Kim to be aligned with other metaverses.
So I'm Dr. Kim Nevelsteen, and I do metaverse interoperability research. For the moment is what we're concentrating on. So, but mostly we have a small organization that we're doing a think tank of individuals that do just high-profile research.
Cool, thank you.
Hi, I'm Gregor. I'm coming from Ethereum Swarm. Swarm was started by Ethereum Foundation as part of the original World Computer Vision, and it graduated in early 2020. We're a base layer infrastructure, decentralized storage and communication, and also advocating for interoperability since the beginning.
Great, it's great meeting you. Perhaps I can also introduce myself a bit here with our panelists here. My name is Ting, and I'm the CMO of Cross the Ages. You can see on the board here, we are an NFT card game at the beginning, but we're also building a metaverse in the 10 years to come with the IP built surrounding it with 7 books coming, and you can also go to our website and download each chapters. Within each story, there's characters integrated with the game itself, and I think we can probably start by talking about what you were talking earlier in your presentation, Kim, that you mentioned that you believe that metaverse should be peer-to-peer, basically. My understanding is each one of us here could turn ourselves into a virtual character, and you can bring that part of the metaverse integrating with the rest of the metaverse. So could you, maybe perhaps we can start with you, Pat, by explaining that a little more of what you, would you agree that it's a peer-to-peer in the future for the metaverse?
So I don't advocate for peer-to-peer. I think that there's the complexity with peer-to-peer is that you kind of alienate low-power devices, which is Internet of Things. So in Sweden, we have a lot of Internet of Things research going on, and so basically you have very low-power devices, which means you have something like TinyOS, which would then also have to be able to integrate with the metaverse. So a peer-to-peer system makes it really difficult. In the future of the metaverse, I could see that maybe there would peer-to-peer would be form a large part of the metaverse, but that is future metaverse, not minimum viable product.
Got it, Frank.
I completely agree with that. When you think about interoperability with the technology that exists today, right? It's exactly what you were saying. It's not that I'm going to go create a character and then all of a sudden that's going to show up in Minecraft or that's going to show up in Pax.World or Decentraland. It's going to be this area right now where it is a little bit more centralized just because of the technology that is being utilized today. Now, if we look out 10 years though, you can start to see some of these other things coming to fruition where we're talking about like true interoperability where like you can take that item and it actually does appear in a different area. But right now we're building a very low-end device system where you can run on phones or $300 Chromebooks. And I can't make a beautiful World of Warcraft character show up on that device. But that will change over time.
Great. And Niko, you have something to add?
I think it starts already with us all talking together and see how we can solve this. Because now, of course, we also have a lot of chains because some metaverse is already building on the blockchain. There are bridging protocols, but it's very, baby steps. It's not secure yet. It makes wormholes for hackers. So if we set the steps to work together, I think this will be the first step to go forward.
Yeah, I would just second what was expressed, but maybe just coming from peer-to-peer space, we do advocate that the true metaverse, so to speak, will be peer-to-peer, where the user will be in complete control, not just of their world, but of their data.
So you also mentioned that a lot of this metaverse is building on different blockchain at the moment, and we're talking about interoperability between blockchains right now. And is that why, Niko, that you're referring to, we're taking the baby steps at the moment, because we are still looking for the ways for different blockchains to integrate from each other?
Yeah, correct. Like I said, bridging is already there. That's what I mean with the baby steps, but it's not safe yet. Eventually we will go there, like the colleagues here say, in 5 to 10 years. Now, I think it's something we should explore more before we start going all in.
But it's getting together like this and actually defining what the metaverse even is at this point, is just having these conversations right now that will help us define maybe not these standards, but the way that we can actually have interoperability inside the different chains to the different ways that character, avatar, world systems actually work. And we're in 1988 with like the internet founding, right? At the moment, we still haven't even gotten to the point where that actually exists fully. We have a lot of projects, a lot of small things that are there, but I think we'll see this come to fruition over the next 4 years.
So we haven't applied IPSME to blockchain yet, but I think the same principle will hold, is that you have people doing direct integration between blockchains, but so having this kind of disjoint communication between integrated between blockchains, I think would be beneficial for anyway. So, and then you can still apply security in that same scenario. So. It would be very interesting to apply IPSME to blockchain, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
How does that actually work?
Well, so IPSME just allows it just is a set of rules that it says instead of how to do your integrations, not how to like what protocols to use or something like that. We just determine that how you should communicate. So where your processor running and which channel you're going to use to communicate, so that you have a dislocation between systems, so that you can dynamically add translations to the system, and so that you also know how to communicate with other systems without having to set a particular protocol.
So if you're looking at blockchain, we're talking about layer 1, layer 2 solution, and are you saying this IPSME is layer 2 solution, maybe?
I'm not sure if it would coincide with that. So what we specify is that your communication is going via a messaging system, a pub sub. And so what you're doing, you're also, one of the key aspects is that you're communicating with the system and that the other system is dropping messages that it does not acknowledge, so that it doesn't understand. And this is a key component to how the systems function. So instead of having a known interface, you're sending out messages and then to participants in the network. And then other participants, if they understand that protocol, then they can communicate and answer. It would be the same thing as if we're speaking languages, that you're speaking French and I'm speaking Chinese, then it's fine. I try my Chinese, and if you don't speak Chinese, then all of a sudden we can't communicate. But if we have a translator in between, then all of a sudden we can communicate. We query that way. We test to see if we can communicate.
So one thing, like just to break it down so like people understand it a little bit better, like one of the things that I think would be really interesting to like start defining is just on 3D assets that exist, right? When people are creating NFTs in order to have access to an underlying 3D asset, I think there almost needs to be a way that I can read that asset and basically say, okay, this is for, let's call it level 1 graphics, right? Blockchain, like a Minecraft style level of graphics. Level 2, level 3, level 5, now we're in, massive VR realistic going up. And there's just like things like that aren't defined at the moment that I think could, just from a communication stuff, right? Where maybe we speak a different language, but we both know that's a television. Right.
So there's at least 10 different groups doing exactly that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
we probably need one.
Yeah. So which one will win is I would say it's going to be difficult to get everyone to win. And so I think I would advocate for IPSME in that sense that everyone can speak their language that they want. So you advocate for your level 1, level 2, level 5, and then you have another group over here that says we have an ontology for our interoperability. We're going to use that. Fine. If there's a translator between you two, you guys can communicate. If there's no translation between you two, you can't communicate. But then
unless you have Google Translate.
But if there's like, for example, there's other systems that talk that ontology, and you have other systems that talk, they can still have interoperability between that group.
Sure.
So, but you just don't have an interoperability between all the participants.
No, that makes total sense.
You also mentioned with this translation and interoperability between metaverse, you can also monetize items or assets. And could you elaborate that?
So yeah, I think that one of the major points is also like who's going to do the work, and then you get to the point where, okay, the world owners are busy with creating their world. They don't want to do necessarily integrations unless it has a direct impact for their world. But there's a lot of other people who want to do the integrations, and if they can make money doing it, then that would be awesome for them. So say, for example, if you know two systems are running IPSME, or one of them is not even running, if you know the APIs, if you know that they have an exported API, then you can have someone who builds a translation from one system to another system, and then actually offers that on just any kind of store, the Windows Store, the App Store, if they would support it, or some other kind of store. And then you can monetize that integration. People download it to their computer, and you have client-side interoperability, so that all of a sudden the user downloads that integration, and poof, they have integration between two different systems.
That's really interesting. And are you referring this kind of work, rewarding this proof of work, would that also involve cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so I think, of course, like I said, I think that it would be really interesting to apply IPSME to blockchain as well, and I think it would be applicable. But I think that also server-side interoperability might be more applicable for blockchain, since then you have all these processes for adding assets to the blockchain and such, and then I don't think really those things are going to be happening a lot client-side. So I think more server-side interoperability would probably be more applicable.
Well, I mean, we are talking about, your presentation is really interesting. You also mentioned about the Facebook metaverse, and you don't believe that's the real metaverse. And is it because we're talking about it's too centralized?
Facebook.
It's too centralized?
So I personally think that I was thinking for a long time, I was like, what is the Facebook killer? I don't actually think there's a Facebook killer. I think the next wave is not whether we kill Facebook. I think the next wave is that you will not have one social network, you will have 100 social networks, and they will all have interoperability between them, and therefore Facebook will be one player. So will Second Life, and so will Fortnite and such, but there'll be one player in the ecosystem.
I think Facebook's killing itself, right? And so I think the number of times I've heard people talk about it in such a horrible way, and not that I'm trying to go against Facebook or something here, but I think they're going down a completely different path of what the metaverse is than everyone else that we've met at, here in Dubai, right?
I always say the thing, Facebook I compare with a dinosaur. It's very big, but they are extinct. Yeah. So what I mean is, if you're building a new technology, but you're building it on an ancient technology because they are going to build it on Web 2. So decentralized metaverse, NFTs, gamification on blockchains, it's all on Web 3. So who is going to put his NFTs or cryptos or even relate them to Facebook? Nobody.
I mean, I would jump in here. I wouldn't discount Meta so quickly because maybe, okay, here we speak about virtual assets, but Metaverse is about the data interoperability. There's a ton of other data that's being captured. If we think about virtual reality, it's the eye tracking, it's the behavior. It's like all this data can also move from the world. It's like one virtual world can be informed by the others through users' behavior. And Meta is pouring in billions into making this user experience a lot less frictionless. It's like basically this the real feeling of me interacting with somebody else. Still, I would say that they will be they either need to change the paradigm or yes, they will get extinct. Yeah, so but it's data interoperability is a new paradigm change. So in this sense, it's like those who are taking part in it need to recognize that instead of locking up the data, unlocking the data also unlocks new value.
And I also think that it's really interesting what Facebook's doing, because they're always going to be there because they own Oculus, right? And Oculus is still the most prolific VR headset around, right? And they will also be able to control some of the user interaction just because of that. And until you start seeing the other players in the market inside the VR, they're always going to be playing in this metaverse area. So.
But to be honest, I'm thankful to Facebook because when they announced in November that they are going into the metaverse, everybody was aware that this is the future.
I think that Facebook, the amount of research they're doing in haptics and visual fidelity for VR and AR, I think will have a profound impact, whether people want it or not.
So you in your presentation, you mentioned a lot of these games that is building its metaverse. Do you think that's the entry point for us to see all those metaverse will pop up? And where we're going?
I think that the metaverse will be like slowly grow out of just systems being put together. If it's via IPSME or standards, I don't know, but you'll just have starting to have clusters form, and these clusters will start merging with other clusters until you start getting a greater ecosystem.
I'm quite excited to see, with all these technologies that can be integrating with each other and see where we're going in the next 10 years to come for Metaverse. So thank you so much for the panel discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we probably, I don't know if we have a little bit more time for our audience to...
We have 11 minutes.
We have 11 minutes. So do we have some questions from our audience, perhaps? No? Maybe? Yeah, please.
You touched on interoperability with IoT. How can you explain that to us a little bit more? How does different metaverses then engage with Internet of Things and other things? Can you help us visualize that a little bit?
Sure. So one of the ideas of future metaverse is that the metaverse is a behind the source resource for spatial computing. so that basically you can use that for anything. So I built a prototype back in 2018, where basically I used a virtual world, and then in that virtual world I located sensors in the real world, and then also tracked users in that virtual world at the same time. And so if you look at smart cities, which they're doing prototyping in Sweden, then you can have this on a massive scale. So you have a huge virtual world that is the smart city, that is then connected with other virtual worlds, which are smaller virtual worlds, like, say, for example, for your apartment building, or for your home, or for your car network of your autonomous vehicles. And so basically, it just becomes the intersection of lots and lots of virtual worlds that are all interconnected. And in that is your IoT network. And then you'll have, in order to connect with the Internet of Things, you often have gateways in between so that you can actually talk to the individual devices, because they're very specific communication mechanisms to speak with the IoT devices.
And
you see that to be a big challenge later on in terms of interoperability?
I think that IPSME can be applied to IoT as well, to the gateways, but right now it's just trying to get enough people to know about IPSME. We're doing the baby steps to make sure that we're pushing forward, and we're as many people we can partner with as possible so that they work on IPSME in different sectors, the better. So
the hardest thing that I've found in building a metaverse is that there's too many opportunities and too many different things that you can do integration with. So, and it's just trying to choose strategically which ones that we want to go after. So when you talk about IoT, or I got a number of times I've been approached by someone saying, hey, I have this apartment building and we want to NFT the apartments and we want to be able to walk around in the metaverse inside this thing. I've already had like 5 guys over the past couple of days ask about that. We've already done some things similar to it, right? But it's just choosing the opportunities that's the difficult part. It's not like whether or not we're going to be doing IoT. Of course we are. Whether or not we're going to be doing NFT integrations with the real world and how we actually do this transfer from reality to virtual. Right, and being able to have conferences where we're sitting there in the virtual world, but you're also here in real life, and really mixing that up. And that's the hardest part, is just choosing the opportunities.
But like you mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would maybe offer a little bit alternative vision. So to me, it comes down to the data economy. And for example, already, I think it was in 2018, I was at a meeting at Fujitsu, and they were exploring the so-called passive data entities. So imagine my car being passive data entity, and it's all about basically how to manage this data and how to do the microtransactions, the streams. So it really, the data economy and the agency over the data is center.
Okay, I get it. So that was my question actually. My next question was, are the IoT manufacturers, are they now coming to the table, talking to you guys, and it's not the other way around, that you're approaching them rather than them approaching you?
They're definitely, everybody's approaching us, and then we're just trying to figure out the right way to go, because we only went from like 10 people to 50 in 3 months, and it's just choosing the opportunities that we can actually execute on correctly.
I think it will be also the users that will push us, because the users, their virtual assets is really a virtual asset if they can transform it to different metaverses. So eventually the metaverses that don't want to work together with other metaverses, I think they will be left behind.
So there's an area, the metaverse is not an area of research actually. So there's an area of research called System of Systems Integration, and that is an area of research, an active research, and that has been active since 2006. So you could say that the metaverse is an applied, so System of Systems is applied to the metaverse. So that means that IPSME has been published towards that community, and so there'll be more and more research in System of System Integration, and so from there, you will also get a lot of technology and innovation, so that can also be then applied to the metaverse, but also other things, like you have people who are working in industry of NASA and in industry for for construction and such that are all building system of system integrations. And so all that will be able to be leveraged towards the metaverse. And so interoperability for IoT will therefore also be able to look at that research and pick out the things that are useful. And hopefully they will see that IPSME is also a valid option.
The last point I just want to make too is that the metaverse is nothing without users. And if you don't have these communities and you're not building these communities together and you're not doing interoperability and basically joining people together, that's what it's all about. So right now we're just in this growth phase, right? You know, back going to the internet again, it's like when a few people that you knew in '89 had a computer, right? But everyone does today. And it's going to be the same thing with the metaverse. It's going to be the slow growth of community. And if you can do interoperability and bring those communities together, that's the ones that will survive, not the others.
Thanks.
I would add those IoT hardware manufacturers that will claim rights to data, they will be pushed out of the market by those who will give agency to the user. It's like, for example, Swarm can run on a Raspberry Pi Zero. And we will see more and more other solutions like that. So hardware manufacturers shouldn't be claiming the data. Simple as that. It's part of the data economy. So yeah, it goes to the owner.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, while we touched quite a bit on the technological aspects of interoperability, I'd be quite interested to elaborate a little bit more on the network effects and the communities and like what that means to monetization opportunities as well of metaverse interoperability. So,
I don't think anyone heard that.
Maybe I need to go further away from the. Is it better now? Yeah. Okay. So I was quite like you talked quite at length about the technological aspects of the interoperability, right? I'd be also quite interested in what Frank touched upon before, like what's the network effects of the communities being connected, right? And what does that mean with regards to monetization opportunities as well?
I can't answer that. He's my CEO, so.
So I
That's a
think
softball question.
As I mentioned in my presentation, I think that I believe in an integration, just like an industry of integrations. So I believe that you can then monetize those integrations. And I think that is a very big, large gap in the metaverse perspective. So I saw an advertisement from the Sandbox game, and they had job lists for the metaverse. But I haven't seen, like, interoperability seems to be like there's no one working on interoperability, and it's like, how can you have the metaverse without doing integrations between systems? So, and why? There's no money there. So if you can get that to work, then there's definitely an option.
I would even argue that's the largest opportunities in terms of monetization, because it's like the internet in the early days where you had like separate pages, but once you start linking them up, right, that's when you create those amazing network effects, right? And that's when it gets really, really interesting from a monetization point of view.
So we're in the days where if you were to analogous to the web, it would be like typing in the address to each website in the address bar each time you want to change websites. That's where we are today with the metaverse.
So Pax.World is going to be the Google of the metaverses.
I've had that question before. Actually, I think I can give you a small answer to that. I think that you'll have hubs. So there's something called the small world theory, and so basically you'll have hubs where users converge, and so you'll have hubs where people will teleport to a particular hub that is very interesting and has portals to mass amounts of other hubs with a lot of aspects that keep players there. And so that will be, I think, not the Google as in the search, but at least the socializing area. Then the how to find data in the metaverse. I think maybe Google will still probably be a dominant player because it's still about searching, and then it's a question of how do you search 3D data instead of just 2D data.
And in the end, how do you index the metaverse, right? What does that mean from the technological point of view?
Well, you could start adding like I want to find a particular user, I want to find a particular avatar, I want to find a particular world with a particular characteristics, I want to find a particular creature, I want to find a particular physics that I'm interested in. So
But
there's.
I think that comes down to like Google. If you're looking at it, pretty soon, you know how you have like images, videos, whatever, and then you're going to see like assets, and you're going to see Metaverse against it, right? I mean, they're going to do that indexing, and we're going to have to do some SEO to basically allow Google bots to scrape up assets and show them and get you in there. So
Highly possible.
I think the possibilities are infinite here. But maybe my last question, I don't know, we have time, but maybe perhaps we can think about it and talk about this afterwards, and which is, why do we need Metaverse? Why is everybody so interested in creating this?
because I want to live there. It's why I built it.
Well, 1% of the world is having the life that everybody else wants. The 99% can have that life in the metaverse.
So, as I just said, I consider the metaverse minimal viable product, which means that I don't want to type the address in the address bar every time I want to change from virtual world. So right now, the first thing you're doing when you want to change virtual world is you're downloading a whole bunch of software and then creating a user profile and all this kind of overhead before you can actually jump into the world. So I just want to have the basic functionality that you can jump between websites like in the metaverse. And so if we need the metaverse, I don't know if we want the Facebook version of it, but I want minimal viable product. I definitely want.
I want James Halliday's version of it.
Great, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thank you.